God damn it, have I really been muted this whole fucking time? That is so annoying. I've really been muted this whole fucking time, haven't I? Fuck. I'm not even editing this out. I'm just gonna fucking leave it and add a timestamp on that. Fuck it. Um, dude, bruh. Okay, so fucking. I don't know if you're reading that shit or not, but I had myself muted this whole fucking time. Basically, I was bitching because I was previously doing a live stream and it fucking got flagged. Um, and fucking, I don't even understand why it got flagged because I was pausing it a lot to comment and react and use the information available to me as a source for what I was saying to back up what I was saying. And because of the way content can disappear online, that's why I prefer to show this shit in my videos if I can. But I do always try to do my best to link everything, regardless of if I can show it in my videos, you know? But yeah, man, that frustrates me when I can't fucking show the source from what I'm speaking on because of how things can get taken down offline and disappear, you know? And it's just like, but I swear it was there. Um, I don't know. But fucking. So our previous live stream, we were discussing that the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl artists don't get paid. So today we're going to talk about that. Start off with that journey. It's kind of like the reason I'm doing today's live stream, which is why it's today's title. But to be honest, the bulk of the discussion is going to be on income disparity, not only in the music industry, but also in general, and how the music industry is kind of also like a microcosm of that, and how where the Super Bowl is where sports and music kind of intersect as examples of like in the entertainment industry, how the entertainment industry is representative of the rest of exploitation in society to me. Um, and so we're going to discuss all of that. And then we're going to follow up with negotiation techniques, not only in the music industry, but also from this dude that negotiates for people to buy cars. Because I just think, like, looking at these talking points and understanding different ways of how people think on these topics, like, regardless of how you think, because I actually don't agree with a lot of shit I'm about to show you, but I'm going to bitch about that shit and talk about why I don't agree with it because I don't ignore opinions I don't agree with. I will bitch about them. Um, but I like to be exposed. Sometimes I think it's important just to know what's out there in order to protect yourself from it because, like, you if you don't understand the harm that people are putting out there, you're not going to understand when it's happening to you sometimes or when it's happening to people you care about, and things like that. And just like also how to not perpetuate the harm yourself, like just many reasons why I think it's important to understand. Um, even opinions I don't agree with regarding income disparities. So we're gonna look at all of that, and yeah, that's what today's live stream about. And I'm gonna fucking I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I said this or not, but like doing this like again, it's just kind of like okay, one more time with feeling. I'm trying to hype myself up for it, but I just feel so like like just fuck. But whatever. Fuck it. We're gonna try and do this, bitch. I'm gonna roll my damn intro. I'm so fucking annoyed that I was fucking muted for the beginning of this. Hi, my name is Lexi, also known as and doing business as Deaf Child. In 2022, my company was listed as number 14 Best Louisiana Events Companies and Startups. I have been doing business as Deaf Child since 2013. I have my Bachelor of Science in Music Industry Studies and Business Administration, and deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. And I've got about 50 certifications in marketing and sales that you can find at noladeafchild.com. Okie dokie. So, today I want to just start off with discussing with whether or not I forgot to scroll back up because I had been scrolled down. Whether or not artists get paid to perform at the Super Bowl. And the reason I recognize this is in my last live stream, we were talking about the weekend and I realized that the weekend didn't get paid to perform, and I realized that artists didn't get paid to perform at the Super Bowl, and I was like, holy fuck, because I had just never paid attention or looked into, you know, I don't know how much artists get paid to perform at every single thing because I don't have the mental capacity to look into all of that. It's a lot of numbers to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? But finding and understanding this is just like, wow. So, um, you know what? I just realized I kind of want to do. Hmm. Hold on. I think I'm gonna. What if? Let me pull this up here though. What if because I still have the live stream before it got taken down. I have the video. I have the video that was I have the video that was saved so far. So let me see if I can pull that up and we can play that. Hold on. Oh, okay, that's helpful. Okay, okay, let's share this. So this is what we're gonna watch. So this is the original. It's on private right now. It had got taken down because it was apparently like flagged or whatever. So what I'm just gonna do is we're just gonna watch my original intro. And we're gonna watch my original shit for this from the beginning, and then we're gonna stop when I get to this video because this is where somewhere between here and here is where I got flagged, I believe. So we're just gonna watch the first 12 minutes of the original work I had done real quick. So I apologize, but you're basically about to kind of, in a way, get the intro again. Hi, how are you today? So, um, oops, I forgot to turn my captioner on. My bad. I said, "Hi, how are you?" Hopefully the captioner for YouTube got that. But I like to have both because sometimes one of them doesn't work, and so with both, there's usually if one of them's not working, one of them is when I have both on. Um, so yeah, that's why I like that. But today is a follow up to all of these live streams we've been doing about the Super Bowl and the fake Crocodile Dundee ad. We've done 3 live streams on that fake Crocodile Dundee ad, so I'm moving on from that. Now we're just talking about the Super Bowl. And we're just gonna be talking about the last live stream where I realized and found out that musicians aren't actually paid to perform at the Super Bowl. Um, and so today we're going to talk about that more, and we're going to talk about like income disparity in the music industry, income disparity in general. Um, we're going to talk about also negotiation in the music industry as well as negotiation in the auto industry. We're going to look at the way this one dude negotiates, and we're going to use his website as like a marketing example for all businesses as well too, particularly for those in the service business. But his negotiation can be used in fucking any business, I think. So we're gonna be looking at all of that because I feel like it'll be helpful. We'll be looking at issues and then hopefully ways that we can advocate for ourselves. Um, I don't foresee the. I wish it would change. I hope it changes, but I don't know if it's been like this for this long. Um, and because of the people who are always going to be willing to perform for free, as long as people are willing to perform at the Super Bowl for free, I don't foresee them paying artists unless artists collectively decide we're not going to play for people for free. I think that's also something to contend with too. Like, but maybe I don't know if I'm being like um problematic with that opinion or not. But what I just mean is that like I think everybody deserves a living wage, so but because I think some part of what hinders people who are fighting for a living wage to get one is there's always going to be people to make it into this industry willing to undercut them and pay for free. and things like that. So that can always, because people are always going to be willing to perform for free just for the experience, um, it makes it a bit harder for those wanting to capitalize off of it to do so. I think that can be an issue, as well as like with income disparity. There's always going to be people who have more money to put together something like this to this magnitude for free, to where other people wouldn't be able to provide that same level of experience without payment. You know? I don't know if I'm making sense or if I'm even being ethical, but that's like where my mind goes with all of this naturally. But you know what? I'm gonna play my intro and then we're gonna do the whole damn thing and we'll just talk about it all as we go along. Oh no, have I been muted this whole time? That's really unfortunate for me if I've been muted this whole time. Um, but you know what? Would it surprise me? Been there, done that. So, anyway, fucking but I'm a little spacey today. Well, obviously, per usual. So, we're gonna start off by talking about musicians not getting paid for Super Bowl performances. Um, And I found this out in the last live stream where, and one of the sources we were going through on my last live stream was talking about how The Weeknd didn't get paid to perform. And so this article is about how Usher didn't get paid to perform. Um, and yeah, so they're trying to say it's the exposure. And here's why I call bullshit on that. Like, unless you are a multi-million-dollar artist about to launch a new album or campaign or something like that, which I don't think Rihanna's released a new album in a minute, has she? If she did, I missed it. Dude, damn. But fucking unless you're got something to promote that you're immediately gonna try and sell, and you have a big enough budget and fan base to monetize in this way off of already, the exposure for the Super Bowl isn't going to give you any return on investment. So therefore, it doesn't bring you profit or earnings at all. So it's not like, you know what I'm saying? That's not compensation. In my opinion, it's just existing, you know? Um, and it just sounds like for labor. So for me, it's like for the exposure to be profitable or a profitable investment. We've already kind of discussed this in a little bit as it pertains to advertisers in the Super Bowl with their ads, but now let's discuss it for musicians to perform. You know what I'm saying? But we can kind of apply some of that to this as well. But like, um, I just really feel like, it's a big investment and it's a lot of resources and it's going to be on the artist and their team to front that. You know what I'm saying? Um and they're trying to basically say that, oh my god, no one's ever been paid, but at one point the NFL wanted to charge people to perform. But they declined. Good. I feel like if they set precedent for artists to be paying to perform, that's fucking bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Um, right. She said, Perry said they'd perform but didn't pay because yeah, hell no. Yes, because paying to play isn't the same as being able to pay on your own merits, right? Um, so in 2021, they were criticized for not paying dancers fairly, which is bullshit. Um, and many of them were unpaid, apparently. I think if I read that right. Uh, but yeah, so this is from a People article, and it's linked in the description of the video. So for me, exposure is a top of funnel advertising. You don't typically see immediate sales from top of funnel marketing. And if it's exposure, which they admitted that it was, that's always top of funnel. That's when you're trying to convert a stranger into a sale. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I don't know. I just feel like I've done all of these other videos previously on the marketing funnel, top, middle, bottom funnel, and what it takes to move someone from a stranger to um, a buyer. And it takes people up to 10 times of interacting with you before they'll even make a purchase. And there's just like different things that are involved with building a customer relationship, you know? So one Super Bowl performance someone might enjoy, but that alone isn't going to be enough to bring you a profitable return on investment unless you already have these systems in place to take those leads and convert them into sales later, and you have enough money to make it until then and fund everything. So it's a big deal to create these campaigns. They can be profitable, but only if you already have enough resources up front to make it profitable, and if you know how to use those resources. Um, so yeah, fucking another articles from USA Today we have about Super Bowl performances, if they get paid and everything like that. And that kind of just is reiterating what we just discussed. Um, and so they're talking about the halftime show, even the one with Rihanna's pregnancy reveal in 2023. Like, you know, not like, yeah. So one, we've also looked at how much money is generated from the Super Bowl to reflect on how they're not even paying people to perform at it. It's kind of bullshit to me because a lot of people view the Super Bowl for the artist. There's people who like don't care about football. They literally watch it for the performance. The halftime show gets a lot of views, you know? That's why they have the most expensive ad spots, because you're getting the most views at that point. And the reason being is because people want to see the halftime performance show. And that's what they use to keep people hooked then for those ads, right? So it's like, this is your number one money maker. This is why you're profiting, and you're trying to get them to pay you because you're already profiting off of them. It's a representation of exploitation, and it kind of shows like even the most wealthy and even the people who've like made it to the top of the top are still being exploited. Like, it doesn't end in the music industry, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at this shit, like, damn. So from there I want to look at this. Okay, so this wraps up where I want to go next here from Genius, and where I was bitching about how I think um, at some point between here and the rest of my video, original video, um, on these sources and everything, is where I think that like the copyright flag happened. And you know what I think is also bullshit is on this original live stream, I don't have the best numbers on here, by the way, but I had still gotten, well, I was just now got 14th, but previously I had gotten 13 views on that original live stream, which isn't bad, you know, for live streams. And I don't know if I've even gotten any on this live stream. It hasn't shown to me that anybody's watching. If you are watching, what's up? But it's not showing me that you're here. Fuck you, YouTube. Anyway, but so fucking so next I wanted to show you guys this Genius video, but that is where I think that my video had gotten taken down previously, because it would show me that like the video is no longer streaming due to content ID tool already claimed or something like that. I can't remember the words specifically, but it was some kind of notification, something with words like that. Those aren't the right ones, but it was something like that. um and I was like, what the fuck? So this time what we're gonna do, I'm gonna skip through this video because this is the one that gave me issues on, but we're definitely gonna also watch it on 2 times speed. Make sure our captions are on. We're gonna definitely skip the intros this time, unfortunately. Um, she's an attorney. I forgot their names, but she's an attorney. He's a solo musician. He's the dude hosting this series, and he's a writer for Business Insider. Um, and so that's what this panel is right here. And I forgot their names, unfortunately, but you should go watch the original video. It's linked in my description if you'd like to go find out. That would be great. And they introduced themselves here. Oh, no, I apologize. They introduced themselves in the guest introductions here. So, then they discuss music industry revenue, and I think they make a lot of great points as well as who gets the money here. And from what I think we'll do is just watch the most played portions, perhaps. But and I'll sum up. I think it was like somewhere between here and here where I got my last video taken down when we had reacted that much of it so far actually, so I can actually sum this up a little bit. Uh, but they were basically talking about in revenue how you know musicians only make 12% and who gets the revenue. Every artist has a different team and each artist has different needs, but there's also typical roles and duties that artists need, so therefore there's typical people that will get hired to fulfill those roles, such as attorneys, managers, marketers, etc., record labels, producers, promoters, songwriters, and everybody uses a variation of that depending on what they need. Um, and who gets the money before we got the uh for the music industry revenue, just discussing that. A lot of big businesses are have exploited and profited off of um artists, and so that is an issue where there's a struggle for independent musicians to make it to a level where they can be profitable, because the people who are profitable, it's because they take money from bigger corporations, but before you can take money from bigger corporations, they exploit you. And even the money they give you, it's still really not enough to make a living, in my opinion. Um, and so this is my take, in my opinion, based on what I understand of the information. That is not what they necessarily said, so you should go see what they said actually. But because I got flagged trying to fucking show you guys this shit, even though it's not showing me, like, it was showing me on my YouTube studio that the stream was no longer available. But then when I go back and look at the video in my YouTube creator studio thing, whatever the fuck it's called, it's not showing me that there is any copyright flag on it. So I think that is also interesting. So if there's no copyright flag, why was my stream not broadcasting then? I don't know. But that was an issue I had, and now I feel kind of gaslit because YouTube is being fucky. But that's fine. That's totally fine. So then they were talking about touring, and one point that they were discussing in touring was how is it that most of the money that artists make these days are coming from touring if all of artists have always toured? And to that I say, because of social media and the internet connection, those who have the resources to tour are now more easily able to get the audience to go to their shows. So you are able to see more types of artists pop up organically that you wouldn't have seen before and use it in a different way. Um, Particularly through like TikTok and things like that lately. Um, so yeah, but let's watch that a little bit. Hopefully my shit doesn't get taken down again.
Try to do is because how do I go about being so technical? Okay, so in terms of producers, let's say, right, you have these things that are co-producer decks where you sign, you say, okay, you can use my song, I'll get half now, and the other half against later, when we'll work out the technicalities later. One thing I try to do is say, okay, let's not do a deck and let's go straight to the long form agreement. That way you have leverage, because once you sign this deck, we can argue back and forth about points all day long about what the splits are going to be, who's going to actually, how the sample is going to be allocated, whether or not the artist is going to actually, however it is. So one of the things I try to do is to go past the producer deck aspect and go straight to a long form, and we can agree that, negotiate the actual points. But a lot of it is leverage. I mean, what was your last hot track? Who have you worked with? This client is not going to take, he's not willing to take this percentage because X, Y, Z. He got this percentage on a different deal with, an artist who's much bigger than the artist that you're talking about right now. So why would he be willing?
So right now she's taking about producers deals, I believe, in regards to how do artists negotiate um, deal points for what is the percentage going to be in their revenue. Um, and this impacts everything about songs, from how the royalties are released from every time it gets played anywhere, you know?
willing to take just 10% from you when he got 50% from the Grammy winning artist. You know what I mean? So really it's just looking at the facts, looking at the leverage, and actually being willing to go, to forego the producer debt, which gives you more leverage, and to just stick it through and just
Negotiate up front is what you're saying, like design it out up front.
No, I'm saying don't do the debt, don't do the upfront, because some people need that, that first half of the advance, forego that first half of the advance and get the entire advance once the long form is done, because then you still have the leverage. They can't put that song on an album until you finish that long form. Whereas if you sign a producer debt, they can use that song on an album, and you guys can fight for the next year about the second half of your advance and what the terms are going to be of the composition.
So my understanding, what she's also saying is artists. One thing that artists will do is just to get a deal is accept half of an advance, and even though they haven't really hashed out the details of what a long-term deal is gonna be, they'll still sign a partial deal to get half of that money up front. And she's saying it's better not to do that, to hold out, negotiate all your shit, and then get all your money. Um, because when people do that, when they go ahead and give you half of the advance, they use that as leverage in order to get you to accept the talking points that they want you to accept, is what I'm understanding of what she's basically saying.
Why do that?
Sounds messy.
Yeah.
John, I want to get with you because the Citigroup report has, and we mentioned a little bit, faced criticism. I know Billboard wrote a couple of articles, the RIAA. People are questioning how do they get to this accounting? How do you get to this number? And that they may not be looking at things the right way because essentially they're an investment firm and may not have the expertise of the ins and outs of the music industry. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, they had like a couple of like bullet points of things that they took issue with it, and it was one thing was like the Citigroup report was saying that a lot of like consolidation in the industry can help young artists or like up and coming artists, and they took issue with that, saying that Sirius XM, for example, like it's like they've got crazy profits, but it's not necessarily going down to the artists. So consolidating of like if Spotify, as the Citigroup was saying, if Spotify started to like act as like a music label for emerging artists, it might not necessarily be good for those artists because who's to say that the profits will go on to the musicians? There were a couple of things like they took issue with like just numbers, like overgeneralizing too.
No, yeah, it's interesting because when you get with Tiffany, maybe you can speak to this, the consolidations of like streaming services, like partnering with Live Nation and kind of then you get to the point of this almost like a 360 situation where it's like every.
And that's another thing that I was speaking on earlier when we talk about who's making the majority of the money. It's not the day-to-day person in the music industry that we consider the backbone of the industry. It's these major shareholders and profit owners and CEOs of these billion-dollar corporations exploiting the musicians and exploiting the people who are passionate and care about the art and the craft.
Aspect of where artists eats forms under one umbrella, and I mean, can artists truly benefit from that? Some may say that.
And I would love to understand what their point is going to be on consolidation, but what they're talking about, whether or not they think artists can benefit from other people trying to get them to sign a 360 deal, where basically they have the right to dip their toes, so to speak, in all aspects of whatever the artist is generating income wise. And for me, I think that's unethical. With deals I sign with clients for myself when it comes to music marketing or music management in that regard, I only sign that in regards to shit I'm working on directly and touching myself. If I'm not touching it, if I had nothing to do with it, then I don't care. But I also have a clause for myself that any deals that I didn't pick up, they still run by me because I'm not gonna be able to maintain a relationship with someone sometimes based on value alignment with certain deals, but also because sometimes my clients will be taking deals that are very bad for them, and when they go down a certain route, there's nothing that I can do to put them back on track to meet their marketing goals if they take that route. And so I like being able to let them know, do that if you want, but if you do, there's not shit I can do for you, and I don't want that blame put on me or um, stress put on me to be liable for unrealistic expectations as a result of those actions. And so I like them to be very upfront with me about what deals are they getting into, and I can let them know if there's going to be any marketing consequences from that based on it. And I think that's important. I honestly think it's an important relationship to have with any marketer you have, because it really can um it really can basically, it's like doing, it's like if you are already prepared, you don't need to get ready type of thing. So you won't need to do damage control if you've already planned um what to do if there's chaos. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I'm making sense, but I feel like in my head it kind of does. But yeah. Let's skip through now to the next most popular part. We're gonna watch the beginning, like the first half of this, on fan armies, because I want to see what they like, how this ties to brand loyalty and customer retention, and then we'll follow up. I'm probably gonna watch what they have to say about alternative revenue as well. And this is video again is linked in the description if you want to go watch the whole fucking thing. And if this gets flagged, it's fucking bullshit. Y'all can suck my dick. This is fucking fair use, damn it. Anyway,
because you do find that these fan armies are really, really invested in the artist. Like you, first of all, you can't tell Lil Kim fans nothing. I got into it just because I said, I like this new Nicki album. I had a couple Lil Kim fans in my mentions this weekend. You say you like Kim, you got the Nicki fans in your mention. You can't tell these fan armies nothing. They will go to hell and back for their favorite artists and to support their favorite artists. John, I wanted to pick your brain on the Music Monetization Act and what you know about that, because that's a bill that's in front of Congress, right? Which they're promising will ensure that the digital music services, all the streamers, will pay fair royalties to the right holders, and also give the streaming companies certain leverage and legal wiggle room to protect their business so they're not losing out.
all right, I'm definitely gonna have to go back, rewatch that, process that. I'm gonna do it not on this live stream so I don't get fucking flagged. And I'm definitely gonna cover that because I'm very interested in it. So definitely expect another live stream from me on this upcoming act that could potentially impact the music industry. Whether or not it gets passed, I'm very curious as to the whole concept of it.
How can this potentially help the music industry?
Yeah, it's supposed to like streamline that whole process because the music industry is like it's working at still the like old school model when we were selling physical copies and stuff like that. So it's like hopefully updating that to boost royalties and yeah, I know it's supposedly passed the House, but it's like Congress is a mess, so who knows? If
Yeah.
they'll really get the Trump's got to sign it too, which I'm kind of dismayed about. Right? I mean, who knows?
Come
It
on.
can help people out. It'll help though. Like,
They have to put it in Russian if they want to sign it. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Nah, say it with your chest.
Okay, I didn't pay attention to the date on this. Let's see. Oh, this is 5 years ago, so that's probably already happened then. I'm gonna look into that and see what that was about. To be honest, my mental health wasn't the best. So, I got my bachelor's of science in music industry studies and business administration. I graduated in 2016. So up until 2016, I was very up to speed with all legal updates in the music industry. Since then, I've been relatively keeping my eye out, but I haven't studied it. Um, I've had my mind more on marketing because of struggling to monetize within the music industry while I was in college. I kind of got really obsessed with the connection of awareness to sales. And now that I've kind of learned and I feel like I'm on my journey there, I'm getting back in more into my music side again, just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know if I'm not forming complete sentences. So read my fucking mind, but yeah, I'm just gonna ignore the rest of that because it feels like they're getting a little political. But I do think that's interesting. Where it says fan armies, I guess this is the most watched. But I wanted to see what they had to say about brand loyalty, so I'm gonna skip through a little bit and see if they start talk about brand loyalty at all. And if not, then I'll just skip through the rest because otherwise, I think perhaps they used the wrong title for this segment. But I am interested still in looking into the act regarding music streaming and everything that they were discussing that I didn't pay attention to. So I'm still probably going to do a live stream on that just out of my own um, curiosity. Because fuck it. Let's take you on this learning journey with me.
Have the discussion. We don't necessarily have all the answers, but it's really interesting. We consume more music than ever. If you're on YouTube, chances are you're listening to music. If you have Spotify or Apple or Tidal, damn near every song created is at your fingertips. As people, as fans, we're consuming more music than ever, and it's important to understand the business and where is it going. Just closing remarks, things that you think is important, especially for the people to know. Don, man, I'd start with you.
I was just thinking about the MMA, and it's about to be passed. I mean, hopefully, I've been looking into it, and it's just like that allows us to receive more from streaming through all the companies, Spotify?
In theory, yeah, that it's supposed to. There's a lot of paperwork that goes on with who gets the royalties, and it just really, like John was saying, streamlines the whole process and frees up a lot more money, or a portion of the money. I don't exactly know how much, but musicians of all kinds, artists, recording artists, producers, songwriters, get a bigger split of the pie. Is what the promise of this bill, what this act is.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to remove some of the bureaucracy. Like, people have catalogs, they don't want to license stuff, whatever the situation may be, and I believe that it's like a panel that oversees it, that are like publishers and actual music people. So they supposedly have more, insight and look more. And actually, a lot of songwriters are like, yes, let's do it, and a lot of publishers are like, yes, let's do it, which is actually rare because usually the interests are.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding, I think they're saying that what this act is going to do is allow people who have fans who are streaming their stuff, allow people to then more easily connect and perhaps profit from that. If I'm understanding correctly, I do encourage you to please go watch this full segment yourself and get that full context. And I'm just gonna skip through real quick. You know what? I'm just gonna keep watching, and we might not finish the end. But I definitely just want to keep seeing the rest of what they have to say on this and about alternative revenue, and hopefully this doesn't get flagged or taken down. Because I just feel like it's regarding like education, just thinking about profitability and putting it in context of income disparity in the music industry.
Opposed, they have opposing interests, but if you can get publishers and songwriters on the same page, it seems like it should be something that they should at least, attempt.
The creatives is at your head, man. The creatives, we here. It's a new time, man.
John, what we should look out for in just going forward in the future as this bill is about to get passed, and a lot of information is coming. I think a lot of sides, like Citigroup is one side and they got their own interest. The RIA has their own interest, and you're seeing a lot of kind of back and forth. Like, what's the most important things that we should be looking out for, you think?
I think like some of the alternative stuff. Like I was talking to Lupe Fiasco earlier this year, and he was really like excited about blockchain technology as like this. You can through like raising money through blockchain, it goes right to you. It's like direct, and that's like something that's.
I wonder if this counts as hearsay or gossip, because how do we know that Lupe Fiasco was excited about blockchain? Or was he? Maybe he talked about it a lot on social media, so obviously there's record of that. But I'm always interested whenever people name drop random celebrities because there's one thing to talk about it privately, but it's like whenever you're public promoting it, but talking about what they did as if I don't know, I get weird on that because I'm crazy because I'm like, if someone were talking about me that way, but I'm not a celebrity, but like even still we forget that celebrities are still people. If someone's talking about me that way, talking about like what I'm excited about or how I feel, I'm just kind of like, but I felt that way. Like, how close am I to you? Or what reason do you have to be talking about how I feel? It's kind of where I go. But you know what? I'm going to shut the fuck up because I'm a little touchy about everything.
Seems super exciting. It's like an up and coming technology and stuff. And I saw Dramatic is this like DJ from Slovenia. He raised like $2.48 million for his music off of that. And
honestly, I'm just gonna skip him because I had said in the previous live stream that I did on this that got I took down. I even because it wasn't streaming anymore. I don't even know what the fuck happened with that. But I don't know how I feel about that dude because I don't know how I feel about Business Insider. So that's also like coloring my lens of everything. But yeah, honestly, okay, so I wanted to see what was here because these are the most viewed, so I was curious, but to be honest, the two things that we did not watch are what actually apply to this whole live stream the most, which I think is fucking hilarious. So, this music industry revenue portion and who gets the money, as we're talking about, musicians only make 12% of the music industry's revenue. But I really do think right here where she was talking about negotiating deal points, that's actually also very helpful because I did want to follow up with, how can artists negotiate for themselves? But if we scroll back, we're just going to come back here. Hopefully that with the double speed, it doesn't flag with the content ID thing. So far we've been good to go. But if we just take it back a little bit, on music industry revenue, let's just see what the numbers are at the beginning real quick.
Yeah, so I read this Citigroup report you're talking about, and I was like taken aback to see, as you said, 12% was what artists were making of this 43 billion that the music industry was generating in total. And basically, that 12% is like up from, past years, but it's mostly due to touring. So artists are nowadays mostly making their money off of touring as opposed to purchase music, which is like down quite a bit, and streaming.
Right.
Is
But
like
what we told every time you look around, Drake is breaking streaming records. Bruno, Taylor Swift is like keeping her thing off streaming, really selling real well, and then going back to streaming. Like, but we keep getting these stories that in the streaming era is really a good time. They brought the money back to music, and which is cool. But it's like, Tiffany, where does the money go? Like, I just knew you on the spot.
Right. Well, I wanted to. No, I'm kidding. A part of it, I would say, there are multiple people and entities that have, their hands in the pot. You have to pay a personal manager, business managers. You have labels, you have publishers, you have, accountants, you have attorneys. So I would need to know the exact, methodology behind, I don't know enough of what went into, even.
So reflect on this. Reflect on musicians only make 12% of the music industry's revenue. Reflect on all the people that they owe payouts to. And then reflect on the fact that the Super Bowl is still asking musicians to play for free for them. And not only is the Super Bowl asking musicians to pay for free for them, they're also telling musicians that they should pay to play. What the fuck is that? You know what the fuck I'm saying? So yeah, there's a lot of bullshit here. And we've already looked at the numbers at how much people from the NFL and the networks are profiting um, off of the advertising from it. And so why don't they fucking, and the reason they are able to profit off of the ads, in my opinion, so much is because of the halftime performances. Those halftime ads are more expensive than the rest of the ads because you've got more viewers. The reason you have more viewers at that time is because people who don't give a fuck about football join in too for the fucking musicians. You know what the fuck I'm saying? And so for them not to pay the musicians for that is fucking bullshit. Putting that out there. But anyway, so, um, so yeah, I recommend watching this whole fucking thing. I'm gonna leave it at that for now in this video, just because it got me fucking flagged trying to watch the damn thing last time. So this time on this video, how do artists make money? We're just gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it on double speed. And we're gonna see if we can watch this whole thing and it doesn't give me any shit, but we're gonna watch it on double speed.
Hi, this is Alicia from Full Circle Music. I'm coming to you from our recording studio in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're here to answer your questions about the music industry. So you guys asked, how exactly do music artists make money? So a major source of income for artists is touring, whether that's national, nationwide, small gigs. That's a major source of income for artists.
So the major source for income for artists is touring. It's playing shows. It's performing. So what the Super Bowl is saying, hey, we know what we're asking you to do is typically what's considered your major source of income, but fuck that. It's for exposure. But then what's funny is the reason that it's for exposure is it's already shown that there's boosts in ratings during the half bowl. It's for the half bowl fucking musician. So how is it for exposure if the reason more people are watching the Super Bowl is because of the artist performing? By that, shouldn't you be paying the artist because they're bringing you exposure? What the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing that out there, letting that marinate.
Another great source of income is sync licensing. So sync is where you hear songs in commercials, where you hear it on TV shows and movies. Now this is specific for songwriters, so the sync licensing thing is specifically for them, but that is a great source of income. Another great source is the merch sales, so at the shows, online, things like that. Now another one is streaming services, so Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, places like that. Another great place is for brand deals. So you see big artists like Taylor Swift that's doing deals with like Coca-Cola and Keds and even Apple Music, those commercials. That's a great way for artists to get those good branding deals. Now speaking of kind of like branding deals, you see artists like Rihanna reaching out and making their own like side businesses where they've got makeup brands or different clothing brands, shoes, things like that. So having those side businesses is another great way and another great source of income that's outside of the music industry. And speaking of side businesses, we do.
That's gotta be a fucking joke. I love how she's like, this is capitalism, where they're like, yeah, you just need to work more jobs. Work more jobs. What? Side business? Really? I mean, she's right, though. She's right. I'm not shitting on her. I'm shitting on society. She looks great.
Do have a marketing course that's going to teach a little bit more about that and go more in depth and show you about how to handle that. You're going to see the link in the description down below, so check that out. And a really cool side caveat to that is included in that it will be how to achieve Taylor Swift merch level sales. So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, fuck Taylor Swift, but I mean, she's not wrong. So fucking from there, I also have linked in my description a blog post I wrote called Income Disparity in the Music Industry, and I wrote this in 2018. I last updated it in 2022, which would be the last time that I made sure that the sources still worked. So If any of the links don't work in the sources on this blog, those would just be links that went down over the last 2 years ish. Um, so yeah, fucking. But this blog, I'm gonna just read it. Fuck it. I said there is a financial barrier of entry into the world of independent music business. While it may seem like people from high income have everything laid out, other people don't have the support system needed to develop resources for healthy relationships in the music industry. The music industry is a microcosm of what is happening in the U.S. economy at large. Kruger, former chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, says, "We are increasingly becoming a winner-take-all economy, a phenomenon that the music industry has long experienced. Over recent decades, technological change, globalization, and an erosion of the institutions and practices that support shared prosperity in the U.S. have put the middle class under increasing stress. The lucky and the talented, and it is often hard to tell the difference, have been doing better and better, while the vast majority has struggled to keep up. Since 1982, the top 1% of performers have gone from earning 26% of concert revenue to estimates between 56% and 77%. A century ago, a performer could only reach as many people as his or her vocal range and travel schedule would allow. Now, high-quality recordings can be distributed to anyone from a computer. The result: anyone can get the precise music that they want to hear. The influencers who create popular music are widely famous and can make a decent amount of money from their art. It can be a different story for the freelancer trying to build a tunnel through the underground. There are only select artists or professionals in the music business with the cultural and commercial leverage to make decisions simply based on their abilities. Everyone else is just hoping to make money and be heard. The issues affecting income disparity in the music industry are so intertwined in the fabrics of society that it is hard to pinpoint exactly where to begin addressing them. It may have been an easier blog post to write about factors supporting rich, cis white male privilege. 4 issues driving biases for income inequality are race, gender, sexual orientation, and education. And I didn't even mention quote unquote disability, but that's another factor. So, race. According to NPR, a study from the Small Business Administration shows that African American and Latinx communities who started businesses are more likely to use savings or risk personal income instead of credit to fund those businesses. They are less likely to get approved for credit when they do apply for it, even after controlling for their credit scores and other factors. And so, business owners who are people of color start under more stress, putting a strain on potentially shaky financial foundations. It is far easier for white people to gain the capital or other resources needed for any type of success, especially in commercialized genres. White people make up 96% of the top 50 of past Billboard's 100 charts. The entire top 10 is made up of white men. I think this can show how much I've changed in 2 years and how much people can change in about 2 years, because 2 years ago I didn't understand that people of color could be problematic, because that was the term that I was hearing at that time. Now I know to use people of the global majority. I was also thinking about the usage of the word African American. Lately I've been told to use the word black. And so in this study, it did use the word African American. If I remember correctly, that's linked in here. So yeah, I know that that can also show the change in language, how that can happen in even 2 years. So I feel like perhaps I should make those adjustments. And I just haven't come back to look at it to see that I should, you know? But I just knew that I had written about this before, so I pulled it up for this now. But I also think that's interesting how um, our language evolves and things evolve. So gender. Music is non-binary. So why the toxic masculinity, oh my god, I can't speak. Let me start over. Music is non-binary. So why the toxic masculinity in pop culture? Also, how come more financial or commercial professional advancement does not exist for transgender workers in the entertainment industry? No transgender artist has charted in Billboard's Top 100 or won a Grammy that I know of at the time of that writing. If I'm wrong, someone please fucking tell me. Please fucking tell me. Because if I'm wrong, I need to update that. Women comprise just 9% of past Billboard 100 charts. Economic and social circumstances affect equality and availability to be in positions of power and influence for workers in the music business that are not cis male. Access to capital for women and the trans community in small music businesses is intensified when the gender disparity of reproducing, childcare, domestic work, and lack of property ownership and assets is considered. And coming back to this, I actually just remembered I was talking about how much I changed within 2 years. It's actually 4 years ago that I even wrote this article, so I guess that's a 4 year difference. And another thing I was thinking of, it doesn't even mention Native people, so I feel like that's indigenous erasure when you replace Latinx with, or maybe I'm wrong for that, maybe that should be different, I don't know. Okay, I'm so sorry. Let's go back to sexual orientation. Straight guys usually earn more than gay men, who earn more than lesbian women, who earn more than straight women. In the U.S., there is currently no federal legislation that prohibits employers from discriminating against workers based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. Gay men are paid less and lesbian women are paid more because of the biases of those making hiring and compensation decisions. The gay versus straight wage gap is the result of white patriarchal systems favoring masculinity in the workplace. Gay men are still earning more than straight women, and lesbians are earning more than straight women. Transgender workers who transition to female earn less money than they did before, while those who transition to male actually go on to make more money. Workplace discrimination against sexual identity has a long way to go to be dismantled, along with the patriarchy's exclusion of femininity. And another thing that I processed since the time I wrote this too is also, I think happens because of how straight women are seen to be at home raising children. And so if you're a lesbian, they don't see you as someone who's going to be at home with kids. And I think that's also homophobic. But I do think that impacts how people pay us, how people pay queer people. I'm bisexual, pansexual myself. And that's my kind of take on it in that little middle ground there. But yeah, fucking education. One reason for the growing gap to income inequality is the ability of wealthy parents to invest more time and money in their children in weekend sports, ballet, music lessons, math tutors, and an overall involvement in their children's schools. While lower income families, which are likely to be managed by a single parent, are generally stretched for time and resources. There is also a gap in income disparity when it comes to trying to position children for college or other career plans after high school. The educational access that people from low-income families need to gain the same opportunities as richer people is much harder for them to come by. Rising residential segregation by income has led to increasing concentrations of low and high-income students going to different schools with varying level of quality. Peer problems, geographic mobility, and challenges in retention rates for good teachers have made it difficult to provide consistently in-depth learning experiences to schools for lower-income students. So how should the gap in income inequality be reduced? Because inequality is ingrained into society, only long-term trends in policy, demographics, etc. affect disparity. The trend that affects income distribution the most is tax policy. Countries that have high tax rates on the wealthy, such as Switzerland or France, suffer from less income inequality than the U.S., which has low taxes on the wealthy and high taxes on the poor. While disparity is a result from people's behavior, policy promoting progressive projects can reduce income inequality, not just on a political note, but with personal business administration in the music industry as well. So yeah, and my sources from that are linked in here. And fucking yeah. So there's some shit to reflect on. I also feel like this article doesn't discuss and discusses the statistics, but doesn't discuss why the statistics exist. You know what I mean? Um, like when it talks about behavior, it doesn't say whose behavior. So I feel like if misinterpreted, that could be victim blaming, even though I know that's not what I mean. But you know what I mean? How that came out could come off. I don't even know. So I think it's interesting how I go read what I write. And I even people I criticize myself. Shit. Okie dokie. So now let's criticize Warren Buffett. How does he think we should fix income inequality? Let's see what the fuck he has to say. We're gonna put this shit on 2 times speed because apparently YouTube hates me. And let's see.
Inequality gap has widened and will continue to widen unless something is done about it. But I also believe that the most important single thing is to have more golden eggs to distribute around. So I don't want to do anything to the goose that lays the golden eggs. And we've had the goose that lays more and more golden eggs over the years. Unbelievable in this country. So we've got something that works in terms of the market system, in terms of turning out lots of goods and services people want. The question is, what happens to the person who's a decent citizen and doesn't have market skills? And we can solve that. A rich family can handle if they got 6 children and one of them is good in the market. It's just good in every other personal quality. They take care of them. And we've got $60,000 of GDP per capita in the United States. That's 6 times what it was when I was born in real terms. So we can take care of people, and we should. But we shouldn't screw up the market system.
So what does he mean by we can take care of people and we should, but we shouldn't screw up the market system? You know what the fuck I mean? Like when I'm thinking about this, it's kind of like I understand that he donates a lot of money to good shit, but he also still keeps a lot of money. And I feel like a lot of things he donates money to are things where he does it, where he gets these tax write-offs and it's beneficial for his company. Is he donating money to people where it um actually alleviates income disparity? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to look into could Warren Buffett enroll hunger because I know mathematically I feel like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk could. Can't Warren Buffett too? You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like we try to act like Warren Buffett isn't like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk because he's so much nicer. He's kind of like Bernie tries to Bernie Sanders his way out of um, accountability for his role in imperialism, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's how I feel. But yeah, um, so I'm really gonna hate this fucking video. So let's watch it. It's called "Income Inequality is Good." It's from PragerU. I highly disagree with this entirely on premise. So let's see what the fuck they have to say so I can bitch about it.
There's been a lot said and a lot written about income inequality, about how unfair it is that a few people are very rich and the rest of us aren't, that the income gap between the wealthy and even the middle class, let alone the poor, is so large. There's only one problem with this complaint. It's wrong. Income inequality is actually a good thing when it's the product of a free market economy.
Are you fucking kidding me? How does our life to make a video saying that people's lives prove that income inequality is good is just gaslighting, dismissive, ignorant. What the fuck? I already hate this dude. I hated the video title. It's 20 seconds in. You can suck my dick. You look like Malfoy. You literally look like Malfoy did not age well. Malfoy from Harry Potter. He literally does look like him. Why do you go fucking Slytherin ass bitch suck my? And you know what? I don't even like J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling could suck my fucking dick too, but you know, you said when you're a millennial kid, Harry Potter is ingrained into you. I can still like Harry Potter, never giving it another dime of my goddamn money, but I'm still gonna have those memories with me J.K. Rowling sucks ass too. Fuck you, John Towney. Let's watch this shit.
Your own life proves it. An economy is made up of millions of individuals making decisions about their own lives, where and how much they want to work, what they want to buy, and so on. You are one of those individuals.
Not everybody has freedom of choice. Not everybody wants to participate in capitalism. We are forced to participate under capitalism in order to survive. Are you kidding me? That's not proving that income inequality is good. He's like, yeah, you're forced to participate in capitalism to live, so therefore that proves it works. What? Are you fucking serious? That doesn't prove shit. That just proves you're a fucking asshole. Okay.
In a country like the United States, you are free to pursue a path in life that you believe best suits your talents.
Income disparity would prove otherwise. Okie dokie. Genocide would prove otherwise. Discrimination would prove otherwise. The history of the law would prove otherwise. The entire premise and foundation in which this quote unquote country was built would prove otherwise. So, what fucking world are you living in?
Talent might be teaching, or making music, or banking, or starting a small business, or raising a family. Whatever it is, this freedom helps to make life enjoyable, exciting, and meaningful. But it's
I love how he was talking about freedom. Shotguns, American Jesus. Anyway, fucking what? What freedom? And this reminds me of like, so I was in ROTC in high school, and they had this big ass sign on the wall, and it said, "Freedom is not free." And it just reminded me of this concept of like mass casualties and civilian casualties and casualty of war, and like where you distance yourself from and dehumanize others, you know what I'm saying? To consider how you're making a living off of exploiting and off of the genocide and trauma of others in a way. You know what I'm saying? It's
also an expression of inequality. This is simply because we're all different. We have different.
How the fuck is freedom an expression of inequality? Wouldn't freedom mean equality? We're living in two different worlds over here. What? If there's inequality, not everybody is free. How's that freedom? So you're saying, so you're admitting you base your freedom off of the oppression of others, aren't you? What? Wow.
Different talents, different temperaments, different ambitions. That's okay because, again, in a free society, we can seek out opportunities that play to our personal.
Malfoy, you're wrong. This isn't a free society. What world are you living in that you think this is a free society? Yeah. Capitalism. When you look at what's happening in Congo, that's what fuels capitalism. Because that's where we get all of our cobalt from. That's what fuels all of our technology, all of our resources. We get that shit from shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Let's look at how we capitalize off of others. How do we have freedom? Why am I sitting up in this room screaming at a brick with my air conditioner? You know what I'm saying? I've got like the freedom and quote unquote luxury and leisure I have is off of the exploitation and blood and trauma of other people. And if we're not admitting that, it's like, what fucking world are we living in? Like acting like this shit doesn't exist, or like the reason we're not doing okay is because of this other fuck shit that's happening, in my opinion, is the perpetuation of whitewashed history.
Strengths that distinguish us from others. If you find what you're really good at and work hard, you might have great success and make a lot of money. If you're not,
Are we really going with the "you're just not working hard enough" argument? Really? 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 Okay. You can be doing everything right. I know people who have PhDs. You know what I'm saying? who are in the service industry still, because it's more profitable for them to be in the service industry than to go get a job in their field. In order to actually start a business, you have to have several months of income generated just to start a business that doesn't rely on a brick and mortar or purchase of inventory or investment into the physical production. If you're just doing service alone, where you don't have to invest much into the production, even that itself, you still need 6 months of income, to before you're gonna be profitable when you're trying to build a business, to generate leads. It's gonna take you months to acquire leads. And not everybody has the resources, or not everybody is born rich because of income disparity. Most people aren't born with the resources to do the work for that long, um, you know what I'm saying, and not get paid in order to generate the leads it takes to build the business. You know what I'm saying? Because they have to actually fucking work to make a living. So you can, like, what world are you living in? It's just,
Outstanding athlete, I'll buy tickets to see you play. If you're a savvy investor, I'll give you some of my money to invest. As long as you have the freedom to guide your own destiny, you have a chance to reach your full potential, achieving success however you define it. But if someone, say a government,
this just sounds like it's coming from someone who's never been impacted by, like, actual struggle of oppression. You know what I'm saying? And so it's super easy when you've never been discriminated against or had laws negatively impact your ability to make a living, to think that, okay, since other people have had laws used to oppress them and you haven't, somehow you're the one who's worked harder than them. But that's not the case. Other people are working hard, or just as hard, or if not harder than you, to get by. But you haven't had laws negatively impact you the way they've impacted others. That doesn't mean that you're right and we're wrong. It means you have no lived experience on these issues, and that you don't know what you're talking about on premise, because you have no lived experience on what you're speaking on. You know what I'm saying?
bureaucrat told you that your ambition had limits, there was a ceiling above which you could not rise, I doubt you'd be happy about it. You'd feel like you were in a straitjacket. Forced equality means less opportunity to pursue what makes you individually great. But what about the growing gap between the rich, the 1%, and the rest of us, the 99% that one hears so much about? Isn't that a bad thing? Again, the answer is no. Here's why.
I love how Malfoy over here is trying to pass himself off as like everybody else, while he's arguing against people's best interests. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like over here, like, what's the difference between the 1% and the 99% like us? The 1% deserve to exploit us. That tells me either you're a bootlicker with like some sort of like S&M kink where you like to be dominated or something. I don't know, like, what the fuck? Or like you fucking like, you know what? We don't kink shame here. There's nothing wrong with that. Or I just burped too, I think. Fucking I don't even know what fucking point I'm making. I just know this dude pisses me off. Like, what is this? What the fuck was I saying? Hold up. Oh yeah, or I think that he actually comes from like a wealthier family, and so doesn't understand actual income disparity, which is why he's trying to pass it off like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there's still a really big difference between the upper level of the 99% and the lower level. Like, if you've never, it's like before even when I was a kid, I wasn't broke, but like, oh no, when I was a kid, I was broke, but even when I was a kid, um, even though I was broke, I didn't understand the value of money, or what we had or what we didn't have. um it wasn't until I was older and paying for things that I understood the value of money. And I feel like when it comes to rich people, it's never until they lose money that they understand what it's like to actually be broke, and that's if they actually really lose like really, really experience struggle, you know? And those that don't experience discrimination, I feel like, and I know people who experience discrimination that are still tokenize themselves, you know, so I don't think just because you experience discrimination in some form, it means you're pro human rights. Because I know so many people who do experience discrimination and they're like, go against the interests of human rights. And you know, you don't have to agree with me on human rights issues. I just feel like that's my opinion about what I see from my stance on the human rights issues. You know what I mean? I don't know. But fucking when it comes to income inequality, when you're trying to like be like, I'm having a hard time to believe like you're like the rest of the 99% of income inequality. And there's also like, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, let's just keep watching.
In a free market economy, people become wealthy, making what the rich enjoy today into something almost everybody can enjoy tomorrow. The rich are the test buyers. Consider the cell phone. Now we all have them, but when Motorola manufactured the first one in 1983, it was the size of a brick, had a half-hour battery life, reception was terrible, and calls were very expensive. It cost $4,000. But if no one had bought that $4,000 brick, there wouldn't be a $40 cell phone today. In the 1960s, a computer cost over $1 million. Nowadays, thanks to billionaires like Michael Dell, we have incredibly advanced computers that cost us a few $100s. Remember what an out-of-reach luxury flat-screen TVs once were? Only the rich could afford them.
It's really weird that they're placing all the. I feel like people give billionaires way too much credit because billionaires aren't the ones typically that actually do the work to produce these things. They're typically the ones exploiting the laborers. Um, what? That's like me saying everything I own is thanks to the president of the United States of America. That they don't do shit for me. What the fuck are you talking about? What? Are you fucking kidding me? That's the same logic, in my opinion. Um, and if you're acting like, I just, what is this argument? Hold on, I'm.
Today, your living room is essentially your own private cinema. The free market is about turning scarcity into abundance. What was once available to the few is now available to the many. Wealth.
That's not true, man. Marketers literally exploit scarcity and create false scarcity to scare shit, sell shit all the time. What the fuck are you talking about? Exploiting what?
Inequality is an important corollary to that truth. So,
Have you not heard of the buyer's incentives? And it's FIGJUS, fear, indifference, greed, Jones effect, urgency, scarcity. You know what I'm saying? Power of suggestion. But what? Hmm.
should I resent the people who became wealthy because they have more money than I do? Or should I be grateful for the economic system that allows them to enrich my life in the
But how did they enrich your life? You never explained that. You never explained how billionaires enrich your life. You just explained how they exploit us. What the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about billionaires exploiting people helps us. How? I don't understand. What? Because if you go looking at how these things are created that you're speaking on, it's typically the billionaires that are profiting off of these inventions aren't typically the ones that actually created them. So if we want to thank the people who provided the technology for us, why aren't you talking about the inventors? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? The people who are billionaires, they're not even the ones who fund it. Typically, they're just oftentimes the ones who profit off of it. A lot of times, the billionaires will be like the CEOs of the shareholders or whatever. Now appointed by shareholders, in some cases, depending on who you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, what? And a lot of times, these bitches just inherit that shit. They even do fucking shit. They just inherited it. So what are we thanking them for? What? Um, and billionaires have enough money. There are billionaires like Jeff Bezos, like I've already discussed, like Jeff Bezos and like Elon Musk, and I also believe Warren Buffett, who have enough money to end world hunger and still be billionaires, but they don't do that because they're fucking greedy. So what? What are we thanking them for? This makes no sense.
lives of millions of other people. This feature of the free market, income inequality, can appear terribly unfair. But with a little further investigation, the real picture becomes clear. Income inequality makes what once seemed like impossible luxuries available to almost everyone. It provides the
Malfoy, income inequality, providing luxury experiences to rich people, isn't the same as providing it to everywhere, because if it's not accessible to all, you know what I'm saying? So this is misleading. It's like, do you not understand what people actually go through?
The incentive for creative people to gamble on new ideas. It promotes personal freedom and rewards hard work, talent, and achievement. In sum, income inequality signals that individual liberty, opportunity, and
Alright, I can't watch any more Malfoy, but the reason I think it's so important to watch Malfoy in these discussions is because this is why it's so hard to move the needle when it comes to being an artist. Because if you look at how this guy thinks about how billionaires exploiting average people is okay, that's how people feel about anyone exploiting art. You know what I'm saying? It's even worse because they don't see art as something that they need. You know what I mean? Um, so just let that reflect. I can't watch any more Malfoy, but if you want to watch the rest of this video, it's linked in the description of my live stream. So next we're going to look into the concept of should billionaires exist, about corporate responsibility and income inequality. We're also going to watch this on 2x speed just because I don't, unfortunately for me, YouTube is being a little fucky. So we're this I didn't watch this video, but this dude is his in the description says he's talking about how corporate and social responsibility regarding how society should be reoriented to focus on poverty and workers. Um, and so I wanted to give that a roll as well. Oh, I'm thinking that my best friend is home. So I am going to go pop my head out in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail and see that as well. Yep, be right back.
I wanted to talk about billionaires, the top 1%, businesses, and poverty in the United States. In sort of a post-2020, 2016 kind of political discourse, the question of should billionaires exist is brought up somewhat frequently, and people are starting to take a slightly more moral stance on whether or not financial accumulation, capital accumulation, is a good thing in and of itself, or if we should curb that in order to redistribute it to the lower echelons of society. Now, generally, the way that I think about this is that wealth accumulation in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, that it's not bad if a businessman or businesswoman accumulates a massive amount of wealth, assuming that they're providing a good service for the economy, assuming that they're not engaging in any sort of market manipulation or engaging in antitrust type arrangements. What is more important is that the people who accumulate wealth pay a reasonable tax rate and that we do not let income inequality get out of hand. That being said, in America, I don't think that we do a good enough job of this. I try to think about it in these terms. Doing some simple Google searching, you'll find that we have about 550.
Alright, so it looks like I'm not gonna really agree with this shit after all. Because I was thinking, like, based on this, he was leaning more towards an ethical direction, but he's still leaning towards the non-income inequality is good thing. I don't understand how people are so lenient on this idea that some people deserve less to them based on premise of existing. Like, what is that? That is so greedy to me. Um, but fucking yeah. So I'm gonna just try and let this marinate. I don't think I'm gonna be able to watch all of this, but I'm gonna try and see what the fuck they're trying to say about how they think. Like, it feels like they just don't want to be they I don't understand their argument too, because I feel like they're kind of being hypocritical where they're like, yeah, we should focus on poverty and workers, but and reorient society to that. But then he's also talking about, like, am I processing this wrong? I don't know. Hold on. Let's just keep watching for a second. I'm just like, wait, what?
54,000 homeless people in the United States. But when thinking about it in terms of homeless people, 554,000 homeless people. Now, obviously, homeless people have a significant number of problems other than just the fact that they are homeless. A lot of them struggle with mental illness. A lot of them struggle with drug addiction. And of course, there are people who struggle with the financial insolvency that has surrounded them for one reason or another. However, as a society, could we afford to take care of homeless people, give them a home, and give them living expenses?
Okay, the fact that we have all this empty real estate that's not getting used and that we don't allow people that don't have homes to just go chill there is bullshit, because people care more about capitalization than helping others. Their resources exist, and the fact that people are like, oh, well, we shouldn't have equal income equality because then, people would be paid the same amount as others for whether or not they've been mentally stable or not, and things like that is bullshit to me. Like, everybody just deserves resources, period, on the premise of existing. No one asked to be here. So if you're born, in my opinion, you just deserve what it takes to live. Like, income shouldn't exist, money shouldn't exist. The fact that we're using this fake ass concept of a fake dollar and fake currency that is literally arbitrary to determine whether or not someone is able to have a good quality of life or not is fucking bullshit. And you'll never be able to convince me otherwise. Suck my dick.
Well, a 1,000 square foot home, which is a pretty reasonably sized home, would be about $154,000 on average. Throw in $50,000 for 2 years of living expenses, and that comes to $113 billion. Now, if we assume that this program, when implemented, giving homes to the homeless and living expenses for 2 years, assuming that it would be an absolute bureaucratic nightmare to enact, let's just go ahead and be liberal and add $100 billion on top of this. Do you really think that the US federal government couldn't come up with $21.3 billion a year, call it $25 billion a year, to crazily overestimate the cost of this program? If we look at what we would need to do in order to generate the revenue for this program, that's a 0.625% increase in the annual budget to literally end homelessness. Now, I understand that this program would have logistical difficulties, getting builders lined up, ensuring that homeless people's homes weren't built in places where they didn't have access to adequate resources, ensuring that this would be a sustainable program. But it is absolutely possible, and it should be something that we strive to do. Take a somewhat more simply enacted program, childhood hunger. 11 million children are food insecure in the United States, and giving every single last one of these lower income parents a $200 a month stipend in food stamps per child would cost about $26 billion.
Okay, I don't think I have it in me to finish watching this one, but where I think that they're going based on the first 3.5 minutes of it is they're basically saying they believe in income inequality. They just think that the government should be more responsible for the corporate social responsibility. But to me, that's kind of skirting corporate social responsibility if you're putting the onus onto the government to front that cost, in my opinion. In regards to income inequality, you're kind of like not paying attention to corporate responsibility for it. Um, and the reason there's income disparity is literally just because people are underpaid while profit holders and profit sharers profit off of the workers, and there's a very big disparity in that income distribution. So that's the issue. And where people are just like, no, 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 let's just keep that up, even though they're not even the ones profiting off of it, is like mind blowing to me. It's like, this is hurting you. You're not even, you're not going to get let into the club. You're just like begging to be let into the club from the outside and shitting on everyone else who is impacted. In a way, in my opinion. I don't know. But you know what? I said I was gonna skip this, but I'm not gonna skip it. I'm just gonna, well, I guess they don't really have, you know what? I think I am gonna skip it because they don't have timestamps. But yeah, fucking. Let's just see their conclusion, though. I'm curious as to their conclusion. Let's see how they end it. We watched the first 3 minutes. Let's watch the last 3.5. Or just 3.5. 14.
About worker board membership in terms of operational results, businesses become less profitable, they maintain their profitability, and that profit is typically in exchange for higher wages for employees. And so I think it's imperative that we reorient the way that we think about corporate responsibility. I understand that Chase employees are paid what they are based on the market, and that Chase is accountable to shareholders only, according to our law, that they don't have a responsibility to anyone other than the people who own their equity. But stories like this, applied across a nation, across some portion of 200,000 employees, means that rethinking the relationship between companies and shareholders of larger institutions, larger firms, is very important. It's crucial that we, as a culture, as a society, implement structures that put employees at that negotiating table. We don't have a culture of unionization in America anymore. What we need is policy to enforce an employee voice in the operations, at the very least, of larger businesses. Whenever I've seen worker board membership implemented, it's virtually always cut off and reserved for mid-sized and larger businesses, because you don't want to strangle smaller businesses. Smaller businesses need to be able to move capital more quickly and have a little bit more leeway in order to obtain the growth that they need to maintain operations. But middle income but mid-sized and larger businesses like this need to have, understandably, some accountability to the workers that they employ. This is another example of something that, as a nation of businesses, that we can't afford. Chase doesn't have any excuse for an employee that can't cover their living expenses. But again, it's not all an emotional argument. This is a quantitative argument based on the operations of one single entity, based on empirical analysis of the policy that I would recommend, worker board membership, that is positive. Now, we might argue, well, this policy might make Chase less profitable, but in a downturn year, because they're paying their employees more, they're going to have less flexibility and they're going to suffer more in downturns. But this isn't bore out either, because typically in studies of worker board membership, businesses that have worker parity are often more stable, because workers aren't idiots. Workers understand that in downturns, it might be reasonable to cut wages across the board, and that accomplishes a few things. What it does is take a per employee basis of cut in the labor of a company, rather than layoffs of select employees. That decreases the amount of unemployment we have. It decreases the burden, potentially, of the state to pay those people in unemployment benefits, keeps people on the payroll, and ensures a more holistic and employee-framed policy that ultimately helps the business itself, because they don't have to lay off as many employees. Operationally, it's not as hard.
All right, so I'm understanding that they're using some sort of chase example from their discussion, which I skipped through here in their conclusion, and so therefore I don't really have the context here to give my opinion on this business strategy regards to layoffs with employees. But I will say I like that he's considering reduction in layoffs rather than more layoffs, but um I'm still curious as to, like I understand how layoffs and unemployment contributes to income inequality, so perhaps that's how we got here. But yeah, that's not the number one reason for income inequality because the whole purpose and unemployment rate is different like than income inequality. Unemployment can contribute to income disparity, but income inequality itself is the concept of certain people getting paid more or less than others. You know what I'm saying? So I guess in some ways unemployment factors into it, but that's like a small percentage when you factoring into this whole broader concept, which I guess it is all tied together, but that's why I don't have a specific opinion on this case example is because I didn't watch the rest of this video.
Hit by downturns, that worker board membership corporations are more resistant to these business cycles in the economy. And so to wrap this video up, it's not necessarily about whether or not we should have large businesses or have billionaires. It's more so about implementing a tax system and a business structure, a mindset of social and corporate responsibility that ensures.
So his answer is he believes that the corporations should be taxed more, perhaps, I believe, in my opinion.
That we're taxing individuals appropriately, that we're structuring corporations appropriately, that the worst instincts of capitalism, that we pay employees the lowest amount for the longest amount of hours worked, that we let homeless people stay homeless because of their financial destitution or their mental health troubles or their addiction troubles, an individualist mindset, that mindset itself is toxic, that we should help these people get out of poverty because it's affordable. And it's morally wrong that we as a society allow this to happen, despite the clear ability from a government standpoint and from a business standpoint to do so. The fact that we can do it means that we should. Thanks for watching.
I definitely agree with that. So I do agree, that the corporations that do exist should be taxed more, that the wealthy should be taxed more. That is something I agree with. I'm against government existing and imperialism altogether. But if it's gonna exist, fucking, yeah, it's the wealthy that need to be taxed. Damn.
Most people.
Okay, so now I'm gonna, let's see, kind of, I really like all of what they're saying here, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to the end of this. Well, I might with the crazy wealth visualizations, but I honestly might watch this whole thing if the live stream lets me, because this is from Humphrey Yang. It's linked in my video description. It's about wealth inequality in America, and how the middle class has disappeared. So yeah, I think this is the widening gap. Let's follow this up. I feel like this is the perfect thing to follow up with everything we've been watching about whether or not we've been talking so far, not only about Super Bowl performance as an example of income disparity and struggles within the music industry and how there's exploitation in the music industry. Now we're looking at income inequality in the music industry itself, how that's a microcosm for society. Then we look at society, different attitudes about income inequality, and now we're looking at how we got here from a numbers gap, if not counting the history of genocide in America. But yeah, let's look at the wealth inequality from a numbers side real quick.
People have no clue about how severe wealth inequality has become in America and how much worse it's getting. There's a YouTube video by user Paulette Zane where he references a study done by a Harvard economist and professor, and the study asked 5,000 Americans how they believed wealth was distributed in the United States. The group was first asked what they thought the wealth distribution in America looked like. Dividing up American wealth into 5 segments, the participants came up with the following, a bar chart that looks like this, with the top 20% owning a little bit more than half of the nation's wealth and the bottom 20% owning just a sliver of wealth, no more than 5%. Participants were then asked what they thought the ideal distribution should be. Over 9 out of 10 participants said it should look something like this, slightly more equally distributed, but the top 20% of course still own quite a bit of the nation's wealth. Before I show you what the actual distribution looks like, many of you might actually point out that, hey, this YouTube video was done like a decade or 12 years ago. Surely the answers could have changed since then. But the reality is that that human behavior and thought process seldomly changes that quickly. Answers have stayed pretty consistent even though time has passed. In fact, in 2020, CBS did a morning show where they asked random mall shoppers what they thought wealth distribution in America looked like with pumpkin pie. The pie was to represent total American household wealth and it was cut into 10 slices. The subjects were then asked to distribute those 10 slices into the same 5 segments. The usual distribution they chose looked like something in this picture. This person allocated most of the pie to the middle class. In fact, all of the subjects during that segment displayed similar results to that of the original study done by the original video. That goes to show you that there's still a huge misconception about how wealth is actually distributed within the United States among its own citizens. Okay, so the actual distribution looks like this. The top 20% of Americans own over 80% of the nation's total wealth. The bottom 20% and the next 20%, so the 21st to 40th percentile, barely even register on this bar chart, and the middle class makes up less than 5 to 6% of the overall bar. This should be
Okay, I also really just wanted to interject real quick and just say, like, one of the reasons that I think it's so important for us to be looking at this visual and to be processing this information in this way is also because when we're thinking about the numbers on income disparity, it's very hard for our brains to process the numbers on these scales. And so for me to have this visual reference and the illustration of what's happening in this way as he breaks it down is super helpful for my mind to actually process to what degree is the distribution disproportionate. Because when you're looking at the numbers alone, if you're not able to see that visual reference for what this means, it can be difficult for the mind to grasp the entire concept of it. Because, you know, if we go back to, we're running new software on ancient hardware when it comes to how our mind is using technology in this way under capitalism, when we're used to existing and working with our bodies with nature, you know? So there's that to factor in as well.
startling to you. And what's even more crazy is how much the top 1% actually has in terms of wealth. The top 1% has more wealth than what most Americans think the top 20% should have. But still, that doesn't really put the top 1% into its full context, which the original video from 2012 did really well. In that video, the original creator took all 340 million Americans and reduced them down to a representative 100 people. He then ordered them from left to right, poorest on the left, richest on the right, and put them on a scale with each 10% representing a different percentile of wealth. Taking total household wealth in America and reducing it down to a pile of symbolic cash, he then spread it out among the 100 representative Americans. This is what Americans want the wealth distribution to look like. This looks pretty healthy. The poverty line is way over here on the left, and even though people are poor, they are in quote poverty. The middle class has the bulk of the wealth here, and the wealthy own just slightly more than the middle class. There's a smooth transition.
I just think it's wild that people think there should be a income inequality gap at all. Even they're just like, yeah, just make the transition smoother. Like, to me, that would show this would be something I would be happy with in terms of like a goal for steps to improvement for general income distribution, income inequality, but for us to be excusing income inequality generally speaking, it's just kind of like, what the fuck? You know? Like, why are we devaluing lives? Like, we shouldn't be. No, thank you.
Transition of wealth across the board here, but we all know that it's a lot worse than this. This is the distribution of how Americans think wealth is spread out in the United States. About 5% of the poor are now living in poverty. The wealthy definitely have a lot more than the middle class here, making about 10 times more than them, and up to 100 times more than the poorest Americans. If you were to ask most people if this is acceptable, they'd probably say no. However, this still isn't the reality of how it's actually distributed. So here's what reality looks like on that same scale. The poverty line is now moved up to 11.6% with 37.9 million people living in poverty. The census defines that as making less than $12,760 per year, or about $35 per day for a single person under the age of 65. The middle class here is very hard to differentiate from the poor, and the richest people have so much wealth that it's hard to even comprehend. They don't even fit on the screen. But what's even harder to comprehend is just how much more money the top 1% holds in wealth compared to the rest of the nation. And what I want to accomplish in this video is show you how big that disparity is and how much it's actually changed since 11 years ago. According to recent federal
So yeah, so when we follow up that other video where the guy's like, yeah, there should be a difference between the 1% and the rest of us 99, when we look at what that difference is, that's why it's like, really, bro?
Reserve data, the top 1% of all Americans own a whopping 31% of the nation's wealth. That's $43.94 trillion of the nation's $140 trillion in wealth. The top 1% is defined as those having a net worth of over $11.1 million, and because they are so wealthy, the scale of them might be pretty hard to comprehend. In fact, we had to make a separate column just for them. If we expand our parameters slightly, the top 10% own 69% of the wealth of the entire nation, while the remaining 90% of people own just 31% or a third of the nation's wealth. What that means is that the majority of wealth, close to 70%, is concentrated in the hands of few. What's even crazier is that the bottom 50% owns just $3.44 trillion of wealth. That means the entire bottom half of the population in the United States owns just a mere 2.45% of the entire nation's wealth. The crazier part, though, is that even though you think that's bad, that's actually an improvement since 2012 when the bottom 50% just owned 0.87% of the nation's wealth. That means the bottom half of the population has nearly doubled their total household wealth since 2012, but that doesn't really matter because the top 1% also grew their wealth considerably. It's important to understand how wealth inequality has changed because that gap has certainly widened over the years. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they conducted a 2018 study on wealth inequality across 28 industrialized countries, and one of their primary findings was the following. Quote, out of the 5 countries for which several observations are available, wealth inequality increased in the US and the UK since the Great Recession in 2008. These changes are associated with falling home prices, lower rates of home ownership, but higher prices of financial assets and the recovery benefiting the top of the distribution. With that being said, let's take a look at wealth distribution within the United States from 1989 to 2012 all the way to 2023. In 1989, the distribution in the United States looked closer to this. The top 1.
So are you saying that shit didn't trickle down? But anyway, I'm going to leave it right here for now because I don't want to. I think this whole thing is amazing, and I was going to watch the whole thing when I started watching it because I just like the visualization of it that much. But I'm gonna leave it at this because I do feel we've gotten the lesson we can from this as it applies to this topic of exploitation in the music industry and income disparity. And so from there, I'm going to leave it at that because I feel like this backs up where I was going. If you want to watch the whole video, it's linked in the description of this live stream. And from there, I want to just move into this TED Talk from Richard Wilkinson about how economic inequality harms societies. I'm going to make sure we've been watching all of this on double speed just because of the copyright issues. We're not trying to go through all that. I might not watch this whole thing, but I actually might watch it. I might not. We're going to see as we go. But we're going to start watching this. And I just want to see a little bit what he has to say about economic inequality harming society because we watch somebody make a defense for income inequality, which I fucking hated. Then we watch someone show the numbers of what's happening and visualize it. And now I want to show this guy where he's supposed to be discussing how it's harmful, so we can see that as well.
You all know the truth of what I'm going to say. I think the intuition that inequality is divisive and socially corrosive has been around since before the French Revolution. What's changed is we now can look at the evidence, we can compare societies, more and less equal societies, and see what inequality does. I'm going to take you through that data and then explain why the links that I think I'm going to be showing you exist. But first, see what a miserable lot we are. I want to start, though, with a paradox. This shows you life expectancy against gross national income, how rich countries are on average. And you see the countries on the right, like Norway and the USA, are twice as rich as Israel, Greece, Portugal on the left. And it makes no difference to their life expectancy at all. There's no suggestion of a relationship there. But if we look within our societies, there are extraordinary social gradients in health, running right across society. This again is life expectancy. These are small areas of England and Wales, the poorest on the right, the richest on the left. Not a difference between the poor and the rest of us. Even the people just below the top have less good health than the people at the top. So income means something very important within our societies and nothing between them. The explanation of that paradox is that within our societies we're looking at relative income, or social position, social status, where we are in relation to each other, and the size of the gaps between us. And as soon as you've got that idea, you should immediately wonder, what happens if we widen the differences, or compress them, make the income differences bigger or smaller? And that's what I'm going to show you. I'm not using any hypothetical data. I'm taking data from the UN, it's the same as the World Bank has, on the scale of income differences in these rich developed market democracies. The measure we've used, just because it's easy to understand and you can download it, is how much richer the top 20% than the bottom 20% in each country. And
in my head, I was just thinking, what's interesting about the UN is it's full of countries that are based off of imperialism and colonialism. So I wonder how ethical this is going to be on premise and concept of it.
you see in the more equal countries, on the left, Japan, Finland, Norway, Sweden, the top 20% are about 3.5, 4 times as rich as the bottom 20%. But at the more unequal end, UK, Portugal, USA, Singapore, the differences are twice as big. On that measure, we are twice as unequal as some of the other successful market democracies. Now I'm going to show you what that does to our societies. We collected data on problems with social gradients, the kind of problems that are more common at the bottom of the social ladder. Internationally comparable data on life expectancy, on kids' maths and literacy scores, on infant mortality rates, homicide rates, proportion of the population in prison, teenage birth rates, levels of trust, obesity, mental illness, which in the standard diagnostic classification includes drug and alcohol addiction, and social mobility. We put them
I just want to note, so this is like a line of income inequality from low to high income inequality, and whether the index of health and social problems are better and worse. And the United States is off of the line of the rest because it's a linear anomaly of the highest in income inequality and the worst index of health and social problems due to life expectancy, math and literacy, infant mortality, homicides, imprisonment, teenage births, trust, obesity, mental illness, drug and alcohol addiction, social mobility, etc. And I think that also ties back to the music industry as well too, because like the music industry is like you can see there's a lot of drug addiction in the music industry, and I have a blog about that as well that I didn't link, but I can put it in the comments after this live. Fucking So reflecting on that, and I'm gonna end it right there for this TED Talk because I really think, if you're interested, go watch the rest of it. But I really think this right here sums it up where I'm showing you. It's you know what I'm saying? Um, in terms of like why is it so hard to make a living in these industries and why is disparity bad and why I don't agree with it. This is why. So from there it's like what can we oopsie what I was starting to watch this because I was really liking it. So from there it's like what can we do about income disparity, right? How can we make a living, and so I feel like that from there I have negotiations with sales. I feel like that would be a really good way to reflect on how can we negotiate for better conditions for ourselves. And so in two ways that I want to look at these examples is we're going to look at music industry contracts and negotiations as well as um, a guy who negotiates for car deals on behalf of buyers. Um, I do wish these videos were timestamped because I feel like it would allow people to get the topics most applicable to them. Let's see if there is a transcript here. I'm gonna skip through the intro, but I don't see the host name, but it shows that they are interviewing with a dude named with an attorney named Mark Gray. So they start by talking about like Lil Wayne and Birdman. And this video is linked in the description of this video if you want to go watch the whole thing for what it is. Alright, so we're going to talk about where he talks about what a contract is and how they can be beneficial and things like that. Let's start there.
Right? Okay. So I mean, the contract can be as stupid or as complex as anything, as long as you willfully signed it. That's contract. So you just have to make sure that you add stuff that protects you. Because if you're an artist, you're young, you're starting out, trying to build your career, trying to build your name. Opportunities are incredibly important for you. If you've got someone who's supposedly promoting you, who doesn't really seem to be bringing you opportunities, it's not helping you to be locked into a contract for 3 years if you've only gotten like one Chuck E. Cheese performance in that time. So you got to have something like that to put into the contract so that if you're not satisfied with the work or with your opportunities or you're not just getting any opportunities at all, you can leave, you can walk. Obviously, there's going to be some notice. You got to maybe give a month notice saying I'm not happy and maybe give them an opportunity to correct those things. But little things like that are important because
I love how he's starting this off with the beginning, like, you gotta make sure that the contract is beneficial for you, that anything you agree to is beneficial for you. And that's where a lot of artists don't go into that mindset of, let me make sure this is gonna be beneficial for me long term. They go into the mindset of, let me do what I need to do to make it into the industry, even if it's not beneficial for me now. And that's how you lead to burnout. That's how you lead to misalignment in value. That's how you lead to a lot of issues when you're not able to take that mental time and preparation and checks that you're getting into something you want to actually get into.
Whether it's an athlete in a sponsorship deal or an artist in a promotion deal or anything, they need to have the ability to walk if they're not getting anything out of it. So that's a major thing that I look for. But a lot of times it's standard language. You just want to make sure that.
And I love how he's talking about how this applies to athletes and musicians because this applies to all performance deals as well. Like, so it's all connected when it comes to entertainment in a way.
Little things like that. What all that they're providing if it's a company that's being financially beneficial for you. For example, they're paying for flights, paying for making sure that your appearance is on point, get your hotel, everything. I mean, you got to make sure that they actually do it every time. So I think another thing is that really people who perhaps are in a difficult position, or maybe not even difficult, but more so, what's the word I'm looking for? They're, difficult's fine. They're desperate, really, is the word I'm looking for. Desperate. Yeah. And so as a result, they're like, no, I'm just going to make this work, and they don't really think about the options that they have available to them. And a lot of times there's a breach of contract, and people really don't know that once there's a breach, you're not obligated to perform under the contract anymore. Right.
And that's what the fuck I was saying. You know what I'm saying? He just saying it in a more professional way. And it's not that I don't want to watch what the rest of what they're saying. We're gonna skip through a little more just because uh they're going right now because we don't have, just because I copyright issues, I don't want to be, I need to make sure that I am in the future utilizing other people's content in a way that is ethical and in alignment with fair use. So I'm going to double check up on that. And I have been trying to do that to the best of my ability, but because I had gotten my previous live stream like flagged and it stopped streaming earlier today because of that, I wanted to double check and make sure that I'm doing a good job of that, and that, see what I can be doing better to make sure that I am hopefully not going to be getting anything flagged or taken down in the future, hopefully. So they're talking about negotiating deals with different people, and how if you're a star, there's more involvement with what goes into those deals because you have more people involved in your career. But if you're just starting out, you're still in the stage where you're just more focused on lead generation and drawing fans out. So you're not going to have as much considerations in your deal points because you haven't escalated to a level of where you're offering a bigger experience yet, typically. And that's also a lot of times, and they didn't say this, but where I'm going from is like a lot of times you have a misalignment between artists will have a misalignment between what they can do and what they want to do, and they don't bridge that gap. So I think there's like, it's healthy to push the boundaries of what you can actually do in order to get closer to what you want to do, but you also have to have a plan to meet your expectations if you're not where you want to be yet. um and I think in contract negotiations, people will be more focused on getting to where they want to be than figuring out how to be comfortable where they are. And they'll make themselves uncomfortable to make a living, but it doesn't work out long term because you're not setting a healthy system for yourself to survive. You know what I'm saying? um and they're talking about the difference in the cases with lawyers, like how there could be contingency fees with personal injury, for example, or how in a traffic fee that's going to be a flat rate. But then with musicians, you often end up paying percentages sometimes, or you'll be paying the hourly for your attorneys and things like that. Um, and they're going into pricing on that as well. So, and yeah, let's sum up what he says. We're just going to look at the summary of what they have to offer about contract negotiations too.
And you know what to look for, but I would say experience comes more into play when it comes to actually negotiating a contract, not necessarily reviewing and understanding what it's really saying.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, just I always like putting a price on things. People kind of know what they're getting into here. If they need to like save up to have this done or anything like that. But I'm sure once it comes down to that, I mean, who's really paying for this? Is the artist, the label, the manager? Who's really paying for this? Maybe both.
Generally speaking, it would be the manager. But it could be the artist. It really depends on where the artist is at. If they can afford a manager, then the manager would probably pay that cost. But it really just depends. I've had artists. I've had.
So I typically have my attorney do my contracts and my paperwork and everything. A lot of the artists that I work with don't go get an attorney to look over the paperwork they sign with me, but I always encourage them to. Um, and so, a lot of artists can't afford an attorney, and that's fine. That's totally where they're at. Um, but even if a manager is paying for their own attorney to have something looked over, I still think it's always in an artist's best interest to have their own attorney if they can go get one. Because that attorney's, their client is who their best interest is in mind for,
Producers, come in and they had a contract with a production company that wanted them to be a producer for them, and he just wanted to know how much he was getting in the royalties. Was he able to work with other artists or other companies, little things like that. It really just depends based on the type of contract and what all is involved. And, so it can kind of depend, but it's definitely not a long process unless the contract is on. Really, the length is what it is. So I don't know if that really answered the question, but
yeah. Are there any common themes that you've noticed between all the work you've done that maybe like artists typically want in their contract, or maybe like the other side, like the companies want on their side of the contract?
Well, obviously, the most important part is the cut. You know,
Right.
what percentage am I getting? What percentage is the company getting?
There was a disconnection issue with my live stream. I don't know what happened there. It disconnected and then reconnected. I'm hoping, I don't know what happened with the end result of the live stream between the disconnection and reconnection of my streaming service, but I'm hoping that it just delays it and it all plays. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But if it paused for that, I don't think you missed much. And you can go watch the whole video and see what all of that was about. Okay, so yeah, I think there's a lot to get out of here for them. They're gonna be able to discuss like the pricing, what to expect with music industry contracts and negotiations, and I think that's very helpful for musicians because when you're walking into these things, if you don't have an attorney, you don't know what to expect. And so from this live stream, he's been talking about not only what would an attorney do for you, so you know what you could be doing for yourself, but also so you can understand what to expect from an attorney if you're looking for one. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so from that, we're gonna transition into whoopsie. I didn't mean to hit play. We're gonna be looking at right now. We're gonna be listening to what this live stream is. He negotiates car deals and he does it on live streams. So this video is a recording from the concept of where he was supposed to be negotiating a car deal. And so that is what we're going to look at now and see what they say. And I just want to look at the way I want to look at both sides from the buyer and seller perspective and the negotiation and just reflect on that. So you can reflect on if you're the buyer or seller, like how are you going to get the best price point for yourself when negotiating for yourself? But if you're the seller, how are you going to make the customer happy and sell your item at the best price point and provide good customer service?
Tommy, this is Chris over at So you were talking to Billy last night.
Of course, Chris.
Hey, good, buddy. How you been, man?
Hey, I have been well. Hoping that we can wrap up a car deal here today.
Yeah, me too, my friend. And I thought I was pretty aggressive right from the rip. I took a $3,500 discount, which is about almost a 12% discount for you. And then Billy's telling me that I need to take another $1,500 discount because my 12% discount's not good enough for you. Where does that come in play?
Well, it's not the 12% discount.
I can understand frustration when you're feeling devalued, but I don't get this way with a customer unless I no longer consider them a customer, unless I'm like done with the idea of them buying from me. I'm like, you know what, fuck you, I don't want your fucking money anyway. That's when I get this way. I get on one level you want to be firm with numbers, and sometimes in negotiation with hassle, it can be about being brisk and being firm with the deal points you're negotiating on. But there's also, to me, a difference between being brisk and being firm and holding your ground versus being aggressive, leaning towards angry aggressive. There's like aggressive assertive, which can be good in business, but when you get aggressive angry, that's when you're going to throw off the customer experience. And I feel like that right there decreases your conversion rate.
Discount, that's the problem. It's the add-ons that are the problem.
Oh, well, sir, every dealer has add-ons. If you don't mind me asking, when was the last time you've been shopping for a car?
About 3 months ago.
Nice, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of fees out there.
Correct, and I had them all removed with about 10% discount.
Well, and again, I've already gave you over a 10% discount even with the fees.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Where are we missing your business?
Well, again, it's coming down to the fees. I'd be fine.
Are you buying a car? Yeah, Tommy. Are you buying a car or are you buying fees?
I'm buying a car.
Okay, so who cares how your out the door number, Tommy, gets there? I could have $1 million in fees and sell you the car for $1. It doesn't matter.
The way that he's not letting the person speak is really frustrating too. The best thing you can do in business is let the person speak. Let them tell you their pain points. Like, let them talk. Let them sing like a canary. If you get someone wanting to talk to you, that's good, because that's when you can understand what they want in order to offer that to them. If you're just trying to tell them what they want, you're not understanding what they're looking for. You're not solving the pain point. Instead, you're trying to convince them to ignore what their concerns are, and that's not helpful.
It's all about your out the door number. And Tommy, respectfully, I'm pretty aggressive on this out the door number. How much lower have you found out there at any other Mazda stores? Because I surely know I'm not the.
Oh, but also, So when you're as the buyer, when you're like, how can I get a better number for myself? And this ties into how can I request higher more money for myself too? You know, um, you're looking at how can you get the person who has the thing you want in a spot to where now they're trying to convince you to get the thing you already wanted. So this is a really good spot for the buyer to be in with the seller because the seller clearly wants the buyer. You know what I mean? Um, and if you're ever in this spot in your own negotiation, you can kind of consider this conversation and reflect on how that can then be used. So, say you're a musician and they want you to play somewhere and they're trying to get you to play somewhere. Okay, now you have that leverage, right? So, you set that price of what you need to perform. Things like that.
The only one you've ever called. No, so to be fair, I've only been looking at used. I have not been looking at new as of yet. Billy was the one idea saying that you could give me a crazy deal on new, which is why I even entertained it. Cars for myself.
$3,500 off an MSRP with fees is a very aggressive deal on a new car in this market.
Yeah, but I understand. And again, Chris, I was in the industry for 10 years, and I left the industry like a year ago, so like I'm super familiar with like how the process works when it comes to yes, the $3,500.
What the heck are you fighting over, Tommy? You're the one that's supposed to let me make money if you've been in the business 10 years. What are you doing then? You know this is the guy I make money off of, it's you.
He's so weird. So yeah, I mean, you're giving me $3,500. I just kind of appreciate you saying that, but you adding, the
And the fact that the dude is like, the guy I make money off of is you to him, because the person he's negotiating with, what that guy does is negotiate on behalf of clients in order to get them cars. So, and he gets a fee from that. But fucking, so he's over here literally like, when you take that greed into it, like you really have to have a close buyer personal relationship for that to work in a negotiation. Like that has to be like your best friend, like your cousin, like your something, to where you've got that emotional leverage on them. Otherwise, it's like you just look like an asshole where you're trying to be like, I'm trying to profit off of you. But if it's someone where it's like you're my, like, say this is, I was talking to my mother and I'm like, Mom, like this is what I need for money. Like this is your client anyway. Like come on, dude. Like let's fucking make a deal for me. Come on, Mom. Like that would work in negotiation, right? Right, like that could work. But if it's Billy Bob, he's got his own family to feed, and you're over here bragging to Billy Bob that because Billy Bob gives you business, you profit off of him, so therefore he should take a lower deal than what would be best for his clients and his business to help you, comes off as greedy because then it comes off as if you're like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
amount of fees you guys are adding is making it about a $1,500 discount, which puts you, right about invoice of where the car is. Once everything's said and done, I'm betting you guys are netting about zero on the car, is what I imagine. Which
As it sits right now, yeah, that's where I'm at, is netting zero.
So what I've
And
seen.
you want me to lose more?
So what I've seen on the Mazdas right now is the best deal they're losing 1,000.
Okay. Well, I guess you may have to go shop around in the valley. I mean, I'm the number one Mazda store, Tommy. I'm the number one Mazda store in the western region. I didn't get there for bad price.
What I also really love about the negotiator too, Tommy, is he's very calm. He's done his market research and he's coming in with the numbers. He's like, if I go anywhere else in the market, this is what it's gonna be. So it's like, if you want my business, if you want this ongoing relationship, then you're gonna need to meet it at this price, because it's like, I'd rather just take my business elsewhere. Um, and you can kind of see where the guy gets more aggressive right here. I feel like he's like losing his shit because he's doesn't want to backtrack now, but he doesn't want to lose. Like that's, he just admitted, that he basically relies on Tommy for profits, right?
Price and terrible customer service. Promise you that much. My deal is aggressive.
And the fact that he's saying that they're gonna give you customer service as if that's not what you're getting now is kind of a joke to me.
If you want to go spend an entire day or two and shop around and maybe beat it by $100, go ahead. But respectfully, I have the best reviews in the valley. I have the best prices in the valley. I have the largest inventory in the valley, and I make it as easy as possible.
Yeah,
you don't even have a finance department in my store. So, but yet you want me to take off 5,000.
And for him to be like, you don't even have a finance department in my store, like that's interesting. Where he's like, I didn't put the work into you to file you a certain way, so therefore I'm not going to give you a discount. Like what? Um, because Tommy hasn't brought up how much money Tommy spends with this dealer. The dealer is the one who brought that up. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that the dealer is leveraging the fact that Tommy's been doing business with him, he went from being like, I rely on you from profits to, well, you've been buying from me, but I don't even have a finance department from you. Is like, what? It reminds me of when boys will hit me up and I don't answer them. And then they'll be like, well, you're fucking ugly anyway. I didn't want to talk to you anyway. And I'm like, why the fuck won't you leave me alone, dipshit? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that, in my opinion.
Dollars and lose $1,000 to a person respectfully, I don't even know. But again, I'm not asking you to take to be fair, what you could do if you wanted to make yourself feel better is you can give me a $3,000 discount and remove all the fees. Again, that would
the same difference as $5,000 discount. The fees is how I keep my lights on and pay my sales staff.
Yeah, I mean, we're both in car industry. I understand that you lose some on some car deals, you make some on other cars. I mean, I was in insurance for 10 years. I was in finance for 6. It's
what the hell are you doing, Bubba? Stop. I understand you've been in finance in the business and all this, that, and the other. Then just ink up. You know it's a good deal. Stop grinding me over a $500 or $1,000. Come on.
I love how he's telling him to stop grinding over 500 or 1,000. But yeah, then why don't you? Why don't you let it go? You know what I'm saying? If it's not that big of a deal to you. But as he admitted, he needed that to keep his. So it's also really funny. He goes from, well, I don't even have a finance department for you, as if he doesn't need his money, to, well, this is what I rely on for my income kind of attitude. Like, he kind of goes back and forth with his negotiation. And to me, that shows he's not really focused on what are the actual numbers that are needed for sustainability here. It's more focused on leveraging emotion in the argument because he just wants to close a deal at the number he wants to close it at. You know what I'm saying? Versus Tommy is very much sticking to the numbers and what's on the market.
Okay, Chris, I guess we'll respectfully disagree because I was in sales for as long as I have, and you know that I didn't do that just by folding over when somebody said no.
I didn't get to my chair just by saying yes every time somebody wants me to take more of a discount off. So I guess we got to go shop around, Tommy. I apologize, buddy. Hey, I hope you have an amazing day, brother. Good luck out there, my friend. Yeah, I just don't know how to get to your number because on my screen, I'm not trying to lose money to sell you a car. I'll net zero, which is where I'm at right now.
Yep.
But to lose money to sell you a car, you've never sent me a referral. You don't own a Mazda. You know what I mean? You're asking for an awful lot and have never given anything in return. I mean, heck, you don't even have a trade-in.
I don't know enough about the pricing points. So if what the dealer is saying now is true, where the money that's being asked for here is less than what he would need to to profitably sell the vehicle for what he purchased it at. Now, that would depend. Is this a new car and it's like 2024 model, 2023, 20 model, like a very new model, and that I would definitely get for sure. But if it's an older car and it's been sitting there for a while, cars depreciate over time. At a certain point, you gotta take a loss. So that, for me, it would depend on which way that is, because if it's an old enough vehicle that's depreciated anyway, you're gonna take a loss anyway. This is a better deal for you anyway versus letting it depreciate more anyway. But if it's a new vehicle, then that's a different story, to where it hasn't depreciated yet, so you still have a chance at selling it at market value to someone else. Then I kind of get the dealer a little bit more. So for me, whether or not I agree with the dealer at all on premise is kind of going to depend on the concept of how old is this vehicle.
So you're bringing nothing to the table but asking me to give you everything. Tommy, I greatly appreciate your offer, my friend. I hope you have an amazing day out there, though, sir.
And I love how he goes from you're bringing nothing to the table, but he started it off with talking about how he used Tommy for profits. Am I making that up? Didn't he say that? I'm not going to finish watching this video. I just wanted to show the back and forth with the negotiation, with how the buyer got the upper hand over the seller in a way. But at the end of the day, they didn't close. I don't know if they closed the deal. We'd have to keep watching to find out if this deal gets closed. It looks like this conversation doesn't end. So it does look like this deal possibly does get closed. But yeah, again, it looks like this whole conversation is with the same guy. I'm not gonna finish watching it But I think that does kind of show how in negotiation at any moment the tables can turn and things like that. So and how are you speaking to someone when negotiating with them can reflect the outcome, as well as if you're offering something that's actually beneficial for both parties. For me, the best negotiation should have something that's beneficial for all parties. Now, that this is the link in the bio. I also wanted to look at this guy's website because I really like his website. Skip the dealership, not the deal. I think that's really cool because he's showing the benefit. You don't have to go to the dealership because he's gonna do it for you and he's gonna get the deal for you. Um, and so his website is super simple. It's very clear on what you're getting for. He talks about how he negotiates. He's got customer reviews with video experience. With his pricing, he has different packages, and the packages show the different services that you get. And I really like the way he puts that together. So I also wanted just to take a look at his website because I feel like this is a good way for anybody who has like a service-based business or any type of business who's considering how are you going to market yourself and put yourself out there. Looking at advertising strategies such as this, I think are helpful because his marketing is on point, his negotiating strategy is on point. He has really good branding, and the video that he posted on YouTube that we just watched generated a lot of leads. So yeah, fucking, I'm gonna wrap this bitch up now. It's been long enough. My captioner is being a little fucky, so uh, I'm gonna refresh this. Okie dokie. So fucking just to reiterate and recap like everything that we've been discussing today, fucking this all started because of a previous live stream that I was doing where I realized that people weren't getting paid to perform in the Super Bowl, and I started reflecting on that income disparity. When I started off doing the live stream today, I was streaming for like 30 minutes and then the damn thing stopped streaming on YouTube because of copyright issues or whatever. And so then I had to restart. And then I restarted today's live and the beginning of it was fucking muted. Oh my god. And so that was a shit fuck. And so then I started introducing myself, but my brain was like broken. So I did my introduction again, but then like as I was getting into the sources, I was like, fuck it. I liked what I said before though. So then I just played the beginning of that video that had gotten taken down previously. Um, and so we talked about how musicians are not paid to play at the Super Bowl. We've talked about income disparity in the music industry. We've talked about income disparity generally. We've talked about if income disparity should exist. I don't think it should. I disagree with income inequality entirely. I don't agree with capitalism at all. Um, and we've also then discussed how can artists negotiate for themselves in terms of looking at examples of negotiations in terms of how these conversations actually can occur. We did use a car dealership as an example because that was something that was publicly available for me to use. And I also looked at the content from the attorney as well as from that panel where they discuss, the deal points and how artists can negotiate for themselves in the music industry regarding what they need to negotiate on, pricing, and things that they will need to consider in terms of the roles of other people in the industry. And it all ties back into income disparity as well because artists not knowing how to advocate for themselves is part of a contributing factor to income disparity in some ways. Um, so yeah, fucking if you watched all this, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. This has been a long one. I hope you have a great night and thank you so much. I appreciate you. I am going to stop this bitch now. Where's my fucking button at? I'm playing Marco Polo. It's so awkward whenever I say goodbye and then I can't find my damn button for leaving because it's kind of like when you say goodbye to someone because we're somewhere together, but then you're walking away, but then like y'all end up walking towards the same place. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, it's how I feel right now. But anyway, I think I found my button. Okie dokie. Bye guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. You might want to adjust the volume after all of this because a loud music is going to play. So yeah, adjust the volume. And then if you're coming to these lives anyway, I do have a loyalty program, nolodovchild.com/loyalty. If you sign up for my site as a member and you follow the check-in procedure, you can get points just for showing up to these lives anyway. So I just want to let you know about that. Yeah, I always have a really hard time saying goodbye because saying goodbye really just kind of feels like you're Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Over here just like Wilson. But anywho, yeah. So thank you for being here and goodbye.